dirty bird. How could you? She can't be dead. Misery Chastain cannot be dead.
Annie, in 1871, women often died in childbirth. But her spirit is the important thing, and Misery's spirit is still alive.
I don't want her dead! I want her! And you murdered her!
Misery is a 1990 psychological thriller film directed by Rob Reiner that was based on Stephen King's 1987 novel of the same name. It would find box office success as well as high critical acclaim. James Caan stars as Paul Sheldon, a famous American novelist who has written a series of successful romance novels featuring a character named Misery Chastain. He informs his agent, Marcia Sindel, played by Lauren Bacall, that he hopes to write new stories and move away from the Misery franchise.
Misery Chastain put braces on your daughter's teeth and is putting her through college. Bought you 2 houses and floor seats to the Knicks. And what thanks does she get? You go and kill her.
I never meant for it to become my life. And if I hadn't gotten rid of it now, I'd have ended up writing it forever. Now I'm leaving for Colorado to try to finish the new book. If I can make this work, I might just have something I want on my tombstone.
After completing what he intends to be the very last Misery novel, he leaves his cabin in Silver Creek, Colorado, and heads for home in New York City. During a winter storm, he crashes his car and is seriously injured. He is dragged from the wreckage and brought to the remote home of a nurse named Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates. Bedridden with both legs broken and a dislocated shoulder, Annie nurses him back to health, telling Paul that the telephone lines are down from the winter storm and that the local roads are closed. Annie also informs Paul that she is an avid reader of his Misery novels and that she is his #1 fan.
I guess it was kind of a miracle you finding me.
No, it wasn't a miracle at all. In a way, I was following you.
You were following me.
Well, it wasn't any secret to me you were staying at the Silver Creek, seeing as how I'm your #1 fan and all. Some nights I just tool on down there and sit outside and look up at the light in your cabin, and I try to imagine what was going on in the room of the world's greatest writer.
Say the last part again, I didn't hear you.
Don't move now. Wouldn't want to hurt this neck. Well, the other afternoon, I was on my way home, and there you were, leaving the lodge. And I wondered why a literary genius would go for a drive when there was a big storm coming.
I didn't know there was a big storm coming.
Well, lucky for you, I did. Lucky for me, too. Because now you're alive, and you can write more books. Oh, Paul, I've read everything of yours, but the Misery novels, I know them all by heart, all 8 of them. I love them so.
You're very kind.
Paul begins to notice that Annie is slightly odd, having occasional outbursts.
The swearing, Paul. There, I said it.
The profanity bothers you.
It has no nobility.
These are slum kids. I was a slum kid. Everybody talks like that.
They do not? What do you think I say when I go to the feed store in town? Oh, now, Wally, give me a bag of that effing pig feed and 10 pounds of that bitchly cow corn. And in the bank, do I tell Mrs. Bollinger, oh, here's one big bastard of a check. Give me some of your Christing money. There, look there. See what you made me do?
After Paul lets Annie read his last entry into the Misery series, she discovers the lead character has been killed off, and she snaps.
You did it! You did it! You murdered my Misery!
Annie!
I thought you were good, Paul. But you're not good. You're just another lying old dirty birdie. And I don't think I better be around you for a while. And don't even think about anybody coming for you. Not the doctors, not your agent, not your family. Because I never called them. Nobody knows you're here. And you better hope nothing happens to me. Because if I die, you die.
In the meantime, the county sheriff Buster, played by Richard Farnsworth, alongside his wife and Deputy Virginia, played by Frances Sternhagen, begin an investigation into Paul Sheldon's disappearance.
You don't think he's dead, do you?
Well, he might well be, but not the way they say. He never crawled out of that car by himself. You see the dents on the door there. Someone pulled him out.
As Sheldon recovers, Annie admits to him the truth. She had never informed anyone that she had rescued him, and is holding him prisoner. To keep him confined to his bed, she breaks his ankles with a sledgehammer.
Annie, for God's...
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake!
It's for the best.
Annie, please!
Almost done. Just one more. God, I love you.
Stephen King was initially reluctant to sell the film rights to Misery. He was skeptical that a Hollywood studio would make a movie faithful to his vision. However, Stephen King had been impressed with one adaptation of his works, Stand By Me, the 1986 hit film directed by Rob Reiner. Stephen King agreed to sell Misery under the provision that Rob Reiner would either produce or direct this movie. Rob Reiner would end up doing both. Stephen King said Annie Wilkes is his favorite written character because she always was surprising to write. Annie Wilkes displays traits associated with an array of mental illnesses: bipolar disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, Munchausen by proxy syndrome, a severe personality disorder with paranoid, antisocial, borderline features, and probably some schizophrenic disorders. In a special feature on the Collector's Edition DVD, a forensic psychologist described Annie as a virtual catalog of mental illness. During the course of this movie, the character of Annie says, "Oh, Paul," 12 times. The role of Paul Sheldon was offered to Warren Beatty, Robert De Niro, Michael Douglas, Richard Dreyfuss, Harrison Ford, Morgan Freeman, Mel Gibson, Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, William Hurt, Kevin Kline, Al Pacino, Robert Redford, Denzel Washington, and Bruce Willis. All of them declined. They finally went to Jack Nicholson, who turned down the role. It was then that James Caan accepted it. Bruce Willis would end up playing the role in the 2010s on Broadway alongside actress Laurie Metcalf. Screenwriter William Goldman first suggested Kathy Bates to Rob Reiner for the role of Annie Wilkes. She was the first and only choice for that character. James Caan and Kathy Bates clashed over their acting methods. James Caan believed in as little rehearsal as possible, while Kathy Bates, with her theater background, was used to practicing a lot. When she told these things to Rob Reiner told her, "Use those frustrations with your character towards James Caan." James Caan never read the book before he filmed the movie. James Caan once showed up to the set hungover, and all of the scenes that he shot that day were unusable. Rob Reiner told James Caan he had to redo the scenes because there was a problem at the lab. When James Caan learned that it had nothing to do with the lab, he offered to cover the money he lost the studio. The book is a little different. In the book, Annie cuts Paul's left foot off with an axe and then cauterizes the stump with a propane torch to stop the blood loss. The scene was changed so that there wouldn't be too much gore. James Caan's fake legs were molded out of gelatin. There were holes cut into the mattress so that James Caan could hide his real legs up to the knee. While at a screening with Rob Reiner, James Caan saw the scene where his character's ankles get broken with a sledgehammer. James Caan turned to Rob Reiner and said, quote, "You're a sick fuck," end quote. Grossing a total of $61.3 million on a budget of $18 to $20 million, Misery was a box office success. In 1991, Kathy Bates became the first woman to win an Oscar for Best Actress in a horror or a thriller film. I first saw this movie around Y2K, and I remember being very impressed. I watch it from time to time, and I think it's a classic. It works as a psychological thriller. Kathy Bates is great in this role. James Caan is great as always. And this movie even has some dark, humorous moments.
I don't mean to bother you, but are you Paul Sheldon?
Yes,
I just want to tell you I'm your #1 fan.
that's very sweet of you.
I highly recommend the 1990 psychological thriller, Misery.